Pam, and I'm going to show you how to make this great 70s bag. Now this is a pattern, a Tandy's pattern from 1975. How cool is this? I'm going to show you step by step how to make it. This is actually a free download pattern from the Tandy site. I'll put a link in the description area of this video so you can download the video straight away if you wish. I actually had the booklet myself, so it's from this book here. It is from Ideas for Leather Projects number 2, Tandy's 1975. How cool is that? You know, it's quite a big book, and this is the pattern here for this bag. Now you can see how big it is. This is an A3 size piece of paper, so basically you need to download it and print it at actual size on A3 piece of paper. Be able to get the size that I've done here. This is actually 82% of the pattern size. The reason I did that is I wanted to get it as small as I could where it could fit a cell phone. I tried 40%, this one was 50% of the pattern. You can still fit a small cell phone, but I wanted to fit a decent sized cell phone, so this fits a decent sized cell phone, so 82%. So once you've actually downloaded it, printed it on A3 piece of paper, if you have an A3 printer, otherwise you'll have to go to the printers and get it done. Then what you want to do is actually scale it down to 82% if you want it this size. This here is the original size, so you can sort of see the difference. Perfect size, nothing wrong with it. But a lot of people now don't carry a lot with them. Maybe a wallet, a couple of credit cards, a cell phone, keys. Not a lot nowadays, so that's why I'm doing shrunken versions of different patterns. I actually find that more people want the smaller bags than the bigger bags. But it's a really cool bag this size. And that's done to the pattern as the original size of the pattern. So do that, then have it printed at 82%. Once you've done that, then do your normal process of, this is a piece of the pattern here, you know, cut it out, tape it to your paper, punch the holes, cut the leather pieces out, do all your edges, and once you've done all that, then you're ready to stitch it up, and I've got the steps for you. I've changed the angle of the camera so you can have more of a close-up look of me actually stitching these. It's decent size holes, and I'm using 1mm thread on this. I've chosen a nice grey thread to go on this red leather. It's a bit of a motley old looking leather, but it looks really nice. Great weight. I think it's about 3.2 this piece of leather. And I've really enjoyed getting to this part of the process. I've sped the camera up because I wanted to actually video the entire process of making this bag. So even though I've sped up this bit, every now and then I do slow it down so you can see it at real time. But when it's just like a line, you can see a simple line that I'm stitching. I've sped that up just to make the video a little bit shorter. You can see in the background of where I'm stitching one of the pink bags, and then there's a black and brown bag. The black and brown bag is the same as what I'm making here, and that is finished with all its hardware. The pink one, I'm just waiting for hardware to turn up. Here's hoping it turns up before the 12 days are finished. If not, I'm just going to have to wait. Now, the pocket is actually my add-on. It's actually the front piece shrunk down, and then I've used those holes to mark where I want the pocket on the front or the back, where I'm going to put it. So it's not actually on the free download pattern. That is something I did actually do myself, but it's easy enough. Just shrink down the front piece of the pattern and find the spot where you want it, either on the front or the back of the bag. And then you need a piece for the pocket and then a piece for where you're going to punch the holes to place the pocket. I like to actually add double-sided rivets to the beginning and the ending of my stitching lines on these bags. I just find that it gives it a nice look. I do use the awl to punch the hole a bit larger so that I'm not actually causing any damage to the stitching because the last thing you want is that to come undone. But I do have the extra hole above the top of the pockets. If you see, just notice that. That just means that the pocket isn't, edges of that top pocket isn't going to just come down, get loose or get damaged. It's held nice and tight. And I think the rivets just give it that nice extra look. Now we're on to doing the gusset piece, adding the hardware, the D-rings. The gusset I do in one piece. I don't do it in two like the pattern. I join the pattern pieces together and have one long piece. I can't see the point in having a join in the underneath. To me that's just unnecessary, unless you haven't, of course, got a piece of leather long enough, but I did. But here I am just putting on the D-rings. I used the double-sided rivets. Then I decided I didn't like the gap in between. So you'll actually see me do a couple of, I'm going to do the holes now. I'm going to actually stitch over each side of it and make it nice and tight and give it a better look. So I'm just using a 1mm punch hole here, going through both sides, both ends, punching, just giving it, making sure that I can get the needle through, because I'm using a thicker thread and a bigger needle than I would normally do. But it just gives it a nice tidier look. I just don't like that open gap look. So I'm closing it up, making it nice and tight. I'm doing 4 threads over, 4 wraps over, I should say. And there you go. You can see it's nice and closed up there. I'll do a closer picture. There we go. That's what it looks like. Much better look, I think, rather than that gap. I'll just finish the other side now. If you're enjoying my video and you'd like to make more of these bags or see more of these bags in the process of being made, do like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll be sure to put more videos up as I make them. I do enjoy doing this video part. And here I am using my shine brush again. Nothing like finishing a line of stitching with the good old shine brush. Give it a good fresh look. Now to sewing the front piece onto the gusset, I will need some water and I will do some wet moulding. I'm just showing you on this bag how it just gives it such a beautiful look. It is a little bit of an extra process, but it's so well worth doing, and I do not find that I end up with watermarks either. So do try it. And I do put plenty of water on. I do it well over the seam line into the actual front piece, so that it's got plenty to turn over. I make sure it's quite wet, so it bends easy and shapes as I'm stitching. I don't really let it dry before I've finished stitching, so that when the stitching is finished I can still shape it a bit and still actually have a little bit of control over making it look smooth and tidy. I'll be filming the entire bit of this, attaching this front piece to the gusset as well. I'll slow down the beginning part, which is always the most clumsy part, getting the first couple of stitches in. But I actually double stitch the first 3 holes when I'm starting, because that's what I do when I end, so that it doesn't come undone, and I like both sides to look the same. But as you can see, it's a nice long thread, and I get a little bit like twist it up a bit, and you've got to see getting those first few holes in. It's never quick. And there's the long stitch, I'm pulling it, but I do, this is really good. Once you actually get the first few stitches in, you're off. And you'll see me, I'll do a fast speed of the rest of it, because like I said before, I'm filming the entire make of this bag. It's summer here in Hokitika in New Zealand at the moment, so every now and then the needle does slip out of my hand, or I can't quite grab it because it's super hot. I think it's like 22 degrees, something like that. So I've got a fan blowing, but still super hot, and I find that the needle does get slippery with the finger getting overheated and the wax thread, but I can still work and keep going and still thoroughly enjoy what I'm doing. But here, when I come around to the corners of stitching, I actually use my hand to bend down the front piece to curve it round nicely. I'll hopefully, I think I do slow it down for that piece. but you can see while I'm stitching what I'm actually doing, one stitch at a time through the gusset, then through the bag piece, hold it down and pull it, and you get a really nice round, and I really like that. So that little bit of water to help with the wet moulding really does make a big difference to shaping and getting a really good look to this front. I've made a number of these bags, and I've always found the corners to be a little bit of a problem, either with gathering or not quite shaping round like I wanted them. But for some reason, after wet moulding and practice, plenty of practice, I've got it down to a T, and I find that every time I do it now, I end up with a really nice round corner. And you can even see here, before I've even shaped it a bit more, I do come back and shape it a bit more. It's looking great even just like that. So I think it's with the wet moulding, the way I'm holding my thread tight, really tight, as I'm stitching and pulling, bending the front piece in as I stitch each stitch. It just comes out beautiful. It's such a nice pattern to this bag. I've loved it every time I've made it. I've made mini bags. I've made a big bag which is bigger than the pattern. These ones that I'm making, I've made them 30% of the pattern, 40% of the pattern, 50 and 80% of the pattern. And I've made the original size of the pattern each time. Just beautiful bag, really good shape. But yeah, here I am coming to the end, and another corner looking fantastic. And now you can get a glimpse of what the inside of the bag might look like. Pull those strings nice and tight. Yep, the front looks great, and then the inside looking nice and tidy. That watermark will dry up and disappear. Now to putting the rivets on the start and finish of that stitching, just like on this bag here. See how I've done the rivets? I really like that finish. I've done it on the back and the front. I just think the rivets at each end just finish it and gives it that extra look. And I don't mind putting rivets, and I just have these teeny weeny wincy ones. Press the hole bigger with my awl so I can fit it through without damaging any stitching. And they go in really quite well because it is a decent size hole, and push them on. Every now and then I have to replace the odd one, but most of the time I can get them in right if I can actually get it sitting on my heavy piece of metal, steel, or whatever that is. Yeah, and then I give it a good rub down with my polisher. I do the edges and the rounds, and that just gives it that nice shape. Now to adding the back. I'm going to do the wet moulding on this as well, so put plenty of water on it. So you can see I'm going to show you the back. This one's got a pocket on the back, and the back is the back and the flap. And there we go, so it looks like that. I like that, and I've even put the rivets on that one as well. And you can see my back, getting ready to put that onto my gusset piece. So I'm going to do the wet moulding, plenty of water right around. Here we go, plenty of water right around, so it gives a nice bend, quite a bit after the actual stitch holes. Here we go, yep, plenty. Let it sit for a little bit, bend it, give it a good push. It's actually quite soft once it's wet, this leather. Some wet moulding's really tough, but this one here is really quite easy. Get rid of that towel. Now to stitching it on to the gusset piece. That is always the fun part, and it's actually easier to do the second part than it was to do the first part. But like always, the first couple of stitches are challenging. I often wondered why designers never showed the entire build of their patterns and their designs. There's a fair bit of work involved, that's for sure, and of course they want to do close-ups of how to do the pattern from really start to finish, but leave out anything that's unnecessary that you can actually do yourself. But for some reason I actually like to see an entire build, even if it is at high speed. I don't mind seeing, the clumsy parts where the needles get caught or the thread gets caught. I actually think it's part of the process.
but I can understand why they don't do the whole lot. The videos would be far too long, and maybe not everybody would watch it all the way through, which is really what you need to do. But if I did full video of, if you could actually see my face while doing this, it's pretty bad actually. I pull some pretty ugly faces. For some reason, when I'm concentrating, I have like a upside down smile. And people often go, "Are you feeling okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm feeling great. I'm just concentrating." Looks like I've got a bad, like a sad face or an angry face. But see, so I didn't actually put that in. So maybe that's why the designers don't put all theirs in, because some of the processes are pretty clumsy. But I'm actually enjoying this. This doesn't look so bad. I have to get my head around, and sometimes when you're filming and you know you're filming, it's a little bit tougher because you're putting it on angles for the camera rather than to make it easier for yourself. But the sign on the back piece I find so much easier than the front piece, and I can see that corners come along beautifully as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if this finishes up and looks just perfect. Wet moulding, I can't say enough about it. It's really transformed the way I work. But of course that's with veg tan leathers. I have never really tried it on chrome tan, because I do tend to work with veg tan most of the time, because I like to polish my edges rather than paint them. All the edges, of course, were polished well before this, and I've done shorts of all the processes up until I actually started stitching this. So if you want to have a look at some of my shorts, you'll see me do the cutting out, the polishing, a few things, doing edges, punching the holes even. So I've got a few shorts leading up to this process here. And then I'll do another video of all the 12 bags that I finish in 12 days. Well, hoping I finish them in 12 days. I'm still waiting for the hardware to turn up. Oh, getting to the end now, looking good. Always feels good when you get to this point. I always feel satisfied when I get to this point. Just about finished. Tie that knot off, do the double stitching, and then you can actually see what your bag is kind of going to look like. And I'm really pleased. Shape it a little bit. Now I'm going to rub the edges again with my polisher, and that does actually make a big difference. Oh, beautiful. And then that's the sort of what I've got to put more studs in. Yep, put those studs in the beginning and the end of those stitching lines. Make the hole slightly bigger with my awl. Poke them in. It's always harder to do these last two because you haven't got as much space for getting it onto that little metal piece thing there. But I do it, and I'm really pleased with the way this is finished. But I can see I'm coming to the end now. Just got to do the other stud in the other end, the other side, get that on, and then I'm ready for the closure to go on. Just show you what, oh, nice. I really do like that finish. And now I've just got to get the hardware for the front piece at the close. Right, my hardware finally turned up, so I can actually start adding them to my bag, which is great. This one here is a little silver one. It's small, and I'd actually marked my red bag to fit a smaller one. But when my gold one turned up, it was bigger. So I've had to work out how to actually fit it, which is easy enough. It's in the same, the holes are in the same spot as I needed the holes in this, but this one I needed them to be a little bit further apart. So here I am just marking it. I use the awl just to scrape it, mark it so I can punch the new holes. I do hide the new holes with a little bit of leather from behind. It's just really hard. I always think I'm measuring and getting the right size hardware, but for some reason when they turn up, it's not what I expected. Like this gold one actually is hollow from behind, whereas all the other latches that I've got like this are solid behind. So I had to make these little leather buffers, which I put in the behind them. See, it's got a little gap in there. So I put them, I just thought it would either mark the leather or make a hole in the leather or change the shape when I go and bang the rivets on. So I just made those little, I had to make a third one to cover the holes from the back. And you'll see me actually take it out of, here I go, take it out, and I'm putting that on the back. I make another one, but I didn't film it, that I put inside that fastener. Here I am just putting the rivets through, and I put the fastener on top. Now these latches actually came with the rivets. I was a little bit disappointed because the rivet tops were quite a bit bigger than what I needed, and they kind of went over the edge of the latch top, but I don't think anybody really would notice. I really like the colour, and I really like the size in the end, even though it was larger than I expected. So you can see the little red bit that's that I put on the back side. I'll show you in a minute there, that which has covered up the extra holes that I had. So what I do is I just bring the flap down. I put the other end of the latch on, close it up as if it would be, then I put it down and I work out a nice place for it to sit, and then I mark with my awl the two spots where they go. Before I punch the holes, I do actually make sure that they are pretty even from the top on both sides. Don't worry, I'm not going to use my punch and punch holes on those. I'm going to put a cutting board in. That one didn't fit. This one is better. It's still a little bit too low, so I get another piece of my cutting board just to make it there. And I punch. I'm using 3mm hole punch to punch the holes to put the rivets through. And then once I put the rivets on, I can actually close up the bag, and the bag will be finished. It's not that hard to do. I've had to do it several times just to get, just to get it down packed and right, get it straight. Make sure I'm using the right rivets. You don't want rivets that are too long, that's for sure. They just don't work. Too short, they don't work. I kind of can eye it now, which is the right size rivets. And that worked out well with my little stoppers behind. Finished. Really pleased with that. I'll just add the gold chain to match, and my key ring, which has got my logo on it. And that's the bag done. So easy peasy with a free download at 82%. Pocket on the back. If you wanted to, you could have put a pocket on the front. So what I'll do is I'll show you now how you actually put the latch on the front when it's got a pocket. So don't just attach the pocket in the two corners like I'm going to show you. I've attached it there and at the bottom. Then I can bring the latch down. I've attached it to the top. Bring it down and I can mark it with the awl, because you don't want it to go through the pocket and the front piece. Then I cut it off, cut those little attachment things off, cut them off, and then I actually attach the rest of the closure clasp. Punch the holes, the 3mm holes, then I bang the other, and then I just go and stitch the pocket on. So that got a flat bit. I didn't have to do a little bit of extra in that one. I don't know why some of them are hollow and some of them are flat, but that's okay. I had the right size rivets for this. That silver one didn't come with any rivets, but that's okay. I've got my own little stock. Make sure I have a stockpile there. Bang them on, get it in a nice position. I actually quite enjoy this part, getting it all sorted and in position and made, finished. Then I have to stitch the pocket back on. Yes. Okay, so here we go. Now I'm actually going to speed this up and cut a bit out, because you saw me sew the pocket on the back, so I didn't think you needed to see me sew the pocket on the front as well, because it's very much the same. So I just do the start and the finish. I am attaching the pocket on with some little holders, some like little needle holders, just to make it a little bit easier. Hold it in position. Here we go, yep. And then I will stitch. And it's such a neat pattern. Absolutely, I know I keep saying that, such a neat pattern, but it truly is an easy pattern. And it's well worth trying. this one here I'm doing, this is to the size of the pattern. So I think the front piece I shrunk down maybe to 80% to do the pocket. And then it matches beautifully. You see, here I am finishing the pocket. And put the needles in there. I will cut that off. There's the pocket. And the fastener's on. Yep, pocket works. And the fastener comes down. That works nicely too. And looks like it's in a good position. I like it. Very pleased with that bag.
Here are some different ways. So this latch is the traditional latch for the pattern, which I have actually put on here as well. So this is a bigger one, and this is a bigger size as well. On here is actually got the smaller size latch. They work perfectly. Just make sure when you're putting your latches on that you check the hole markings on the pattern with the holes on your latches. You may want to mark them straight away or leave it till later, but I prefer to do it when I'm cutting out all the pieces, is actually mark the top piece of the pattern or the bottom piece. Only one of them. I never mark the top and the bottom, just in case they don't quite match up. So with this pattern I always mark the top two pieces. My hardware came after I had actually done all the measurements and punched the holes for the top, so I had to do a little bit of change to hide the holes because I had to make new holes, but you'd never notice. Just a little piece of extra leather there. Nobody would know that it had a couple of extra holes there. So you can always cover it up if they are not quite in the right place or not quite the right size. So that's there. Then this one here, I put a pocket on the front. So I designed the pocket for the back. And the back pocket is actually the same as the front but shrunk down. I shrunk it down, I think 40% or 60%, I can't quite remember, but do it to whatever size you want. You need a pattern piece in for the pocket itself, then you need a pattern piece exactly the same for the stitching holes, and you just take that to your pattern piece so you make sure you get the holes in the right place. Pretty much the same as what you do on the back to the front. Right, so this is another latch, so you can actually do different latches. This one's got the pocket in the front and a pocket in the back, and I really enjoyed that. I think it's great with the two pockets. I just found with this latch that it needed a little bit of extra firmness when you're closing it, so the pocket on top of that layer made a big difference. Now this bag here, the bigger the bag, the more likely I am to actually, you can't see on this one, but it's actually got a glued in base, and this one here is another bigger size here. I've actually glued in a bit of leather, same leather inside, and then riveted it down just to give the base a bit more firmness. You don't have to do that, but I do that, especially with the bigger bags. And this one here is also the same pattern. This one I did out of fur on hide, and I changed, because the fur on hide goes that way and you want it to go down that way. I didn't want the fur to go around like that, so I cut it, turned it around and added it here. That way the fur is going the right direction on the front and the back. It feels so nice. This bag is totally made with studs all the way around, no stitching, just studs. And I also glued a bit on the base as well on the inside and studded that down, so it's got a nice firm bottom. I'll put that on there. And then this is another different latch that I've done. This is in another bag that's also 82%. That's the smaller one, and that's a smaller one. It's the 82% and 82%. These are really neat latches here as well. Just go on like that, easy to open and close. To me, I actually think it gives it a nice vintage look. Really fun bags to make. Absolutely love them. Called them the song bag, the perfect song bag, because to me they're just the perfect bag. I absolutely love the shape. So I've made big ones, that size, that size, that size, and then I've also made these little mini ones and these ones. So if you wanted to, you could actually hang them on the outside of the bags. Really cool. I just think I shrunk them down. Just keep shrinking the pattern down. Each piece always shrunk the same measurement down, so you get all the pattern pieces the right size. This one here, I've just put domes on here, so if I wanted to, I could just, whoops, that's back to front, and just add that onto here. And what would you use that for, you say? Well, lots of people say medication, wipes, and it just hangs on the edge of the bag like that. Pretty cool, and a lot of people do comment on them. A lot of fun to make. If you have any questions, do ask. I'm more than happy to help. But I hope you enjoy my video and enjoy having a go at making this bag with a free pattern download. Thank you.